Okay, Vina, we are at the 12 o'clock mark, so it is time to get started.
Okay, let's get started.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for coming and welcome to the September 2023 Black Health Now. My name is Veronica Warman. I am an SVP Group Creative Director at Entree Health. And at our company, we work with manufacturers to help patients get access to the healthcare that they need. And today I am going to be talking with Vina Morris, who is a visionary IT executive, the Afro Pink CEO, and a breast cancer awareness advocate. Thank you so much for being with us today, Vina.
Thank you, Veronica. I am excited to be here. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get right into it and start with my first question, which is, can you please tell us the story behind Afro Pink?
Sure. So Afro Pink so let me start with how I got to Afro Pink. So I'm going to talk about my journey in breast cancer a little bit. Now that's how, and through that journey is how I landed and launched Afro Pink initially. So I got diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019, June 2019, after having a benign biopsy, and went in just to get the lump removed at the encouragement of my doctor. To me, having a benign biopsy after they found a lump on my mammogram, having a benign biopsy, I thought I was pretty much done and went about my life. And my doctor encouraged me to just get it taken out. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to be worried about it. So I decided to get the lumpectomy. So I got the lump removed. And to my surprise, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was lucky that and blessed that I was diagnosed at stage 0. And my diagnosis was ductal carcinoma in situ or in situ, which meant that it was just starting, and it was also hormone positive. So from there, 2019, my treatment plan consisted of 15 rounds of radiation, another lumpectomy so they can clear the margins and basically declare me cancer-free, then go into the 15 rounds of radiation. And then from there, I would have to do a diagnostic mammogram every 6 months and take a hormone inhibitor that will stop my body from producing estrogen, which my cancer was estrogen positive, for 5 years. So did all of that, went to go get my first mammogram post my treatment plan, and to my surprise, they found another lump that was just starting as well. So I had the same diagnosis, and this time around, my treatment plan consisted of having a mastectomy. So I opted for a double mastectomy so I can ensure that I didn't have to go through this again. After having it the first time and, being declared and ringing a bell and being excited about it, it turned around and it came right back. So on March 6th of 2020, I had a double mastectomy with immediate reconstruction, which basically reconstructed my breast all the way through the nipple with implants and also tattoos for areolas. So it was during that time when I was just having some downtime and recovering and thinking about how did this happen to me? Because I believe that I couldn't get cancer or breast cancer specifically because my mother and my grandmothers didn't have it. I didn't see anybody in my family that had breast cancer, so why would it impact me? But because I was getting mammograms, and I forgot to tell this part of my story, when I was in my 30s, I was diagnosed with extremely dense breast tissue and also with fibrocystic breast disease, which basically meant I had lumpy breasts. And it was because of that I had and the reason why they caught me at stage 0 is because I had 8 or 9 mammograms that they can look through the history. So they were able to see the abnormalities forming in my breast because of that. So upon this time, I opted for a double mastectomy, and March 20th, and I was sitting around thinking about how I can help others and why did this happen to me? So I took a genetic test. I do not carry any of the BRCA 1 or 2 gene mutations or any mutation or gene mutations for any type of cancer. And I'm like, how is this possible? How did I get cancer? And and why is it that I didn't believe I can get it? And I still got it anyway. So, and thinking about why it was such a lonely experience. I didn't know anybody else, especially anybody that looked like me, that had breast cancer, that could help me and be there for me and answer questions that I had. I had none of that. And so I thought I would start a nonprofit. I'm like, why don't you start an organization? And I'm in technology, as you heard. And the first thing I did was check to see if the domain name was available. And I did Afro Pink. First of all, I was trying to think about the name for it. I was like, okay, let me think about Black people, breast cancer, there's Black and there's pink, there's African pink, and there's all these things. And I'm like, I really want it to be about the African diaspora. It's not about hair. Most people think, when they see me, my hair is always different. You never know what you're going to get with my hair. That's what we are, beauty of being Black, right? And people automatically think that it's about hair. It's not about hair. It's about the African diaspora and making sure that the people within the African diaspora understand that breast cancer impacts us too. So I wanted to create an organization that helped with dispelling myths. I believe the big myth that I couldn't get it because my grandmother, I didn't know anybody in my family that had breast cancer. So I believe that, but in spite of what I believe, I still did the preventative healthcare just to make sure, even though I would stand down and double down, I didn't think I can get it, but I still did the work. I went to get my mammogram every year, even though in my mind, I'm like, this is a waste of time, but I'm going to do it anyway because my doctor is encouraging me to do so. So I wanted to also, in my organization, is create also encourage Black women to do the preventative healthcare. I found my lump when I was diagnosed in my 30s with fibrocystic breast by doing a monthly breast self-exam. And that was with that panic and that fear that I ran to the doctor. I was like, oh my God, I have breast cancer. And she was brown and took me seriously and got me a mammogram right away and a 3D, not a 3D, but an ultrasound as well. So it's important that I encourage Black women to also get mammograms, a sonogram, not a sonogram, but an ultrasound and any other thing. And now I hear you can get MRIs. We'll talk about that later. And also, I wanted an organization that could provide resources. I didn't have any resources, especially of people that look like me. You go, the face of cancer is white. Most of the pamphlets, most of the websites, most of the people you see are white people or white women going through this disease. So it's one of those things that I wanted to make sure that I had an organization that can tackle those three things. So that is how Afro Pink started on October 1st of 2020. We actually launched that day. So.
Wow, well, congratulations on creating such an amazing organization and on making it through your journey. So in your opinion, what is the most common misconception among the Black community about breast cancer?
Well, I told you one of the biggest ones. We don't think that it's a Black person's disease, right? It's not, the face of breast cancer is not Black. You don't think that, and I'm only speaking from my own experience, but when I speak to other women who have been diagnosed, they have similar misconceptions about how or why or, how is this happening, right? So I think part of it is we have misinformation about it. Because if you think about it, I don't know if people know that it could be genetic. It could be in your DNA. You have this misconception. It's like I met many women who said they've done everything right. I didn't smoke. I didn't do any drugs. I didn't drink. I ate no meat. I'm a vegan. I'm a yogi, but yet they have breast cancer. So it's one of those things that, you have to understand your genetic makeup by doing a genetic test to help you see that it is possible that you carry within your DNA and you could be diagnosed with breast cancer that way. Or in my case, I have no idea how I got it. At least I have some idea, but it's not proven yet, right? That I have a family history of it. But I think a lot of it is around the things that we believe and not seeing that this is a disease that does not discriminate. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you come from, where you live, where you don't live, where you're from. It doesn't matter. This disease does not discriminate. And it is a disease that is killing Black women at a 40% higher rate than any other race. And that was another reason why I started Afro Pink, because I learned that as well, that Black women are dying at higher rates, 40% higher rates than any other race. And so that was another impetus for me starting Afro Pink. So, but that's what, in my opinion, I think that a lot of it is about the misconceptions out there that we can't get it if my mother doesn't have it, or my grandmother doesn't have it, or where they don't necessarily see a lot of Black women. We don't talk about it, right? So it's one of those things in our community that we still don't talk about as much as we should. And you never know how your story can help someone, right? If by just telling them like, hey, I had breast cancer, I did a little post. And when I did the post, all these Black women came out of the woodworks to say, hey, I had that too. And I had breast cancer, but I didn't want to tell anyone. So it's about not knowing that there are women who have been diagnosed and survived breast cancer. So that's another piece of like, we're not, out there showing folks that it is possible for you to get breast cancer, but it's also possible for you to survive breast cancer as well. So
yes. Yes. And beyond genetic disposition, there are also myths about medical conditions that kind of lead to that. And that leads us to the question around a story of dispelling a myth for someone.
Sure. So as you know, I met you because I told you my story, right? So in telling my story, I tell women, whoever will listen, I'm at a conference today and everybody here already knows that I'm a 2-time breast cancer survivor and I want to get them screened. This is a Black women's conference that I'm in right now. And it's power in that. So in telling folks that my story, and it encourages them to go out to, first of all, to do a breast self-exam or go to the doctor and get their annual exams so they can have a doctor do a breast self-exam. But also, if they find something, say something. I teach women to advocate through my story, right? So I believe that if we can continue to share our stories, we can encourage women to go out there to get their annual exams, get a mammogram. And I just learned yesterday that if you're under 30, if you're not qualified for a mammogram, you can also ask for an MRI. So.
Very cool. So is there a story you can share about dispelling myth with someone?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot that part of the question. So yes, in me telling my stories, I believe that I have helped a handful of women. One in particular that comes to mind, I had a friend who recently had a baby and she was breastfeeding. And as you know, when you're breastfeeding, you may not know that you sometimes get your clogged milk ducts. And so she had a lump. And naturally the assumption was, it's probably just a clogged milk duct, but actually it turns out it was breast cancer, but she didn't find out and didn't go to the doctor about it for 2 years. Again, there's some documentation out there that states that you're at higher risk of getting breast cancer if you've had a baby and if you've breastfed, and
lower risk.
Yeah, no, you have a lower risk of getting breast cancer if you've had a baby and you've breastfed. Right. And so her breastfeeding and thinking, okay, this is probably a clogged milk duct, led to her not acting soon enough to get her mammogram, which led to and she was still early stage diagnosed. She was like stage 2. But she could have been stage 0 or sooner, or stage 1 if she had gone to the doctor at that point in time. It was also her doctor telling her too that it's just a clogged milk duct. So I believe that in that situation, in spite of what the internet says or Dr. Google wasn't what I always refer to Google as, you can still get breast cancer. So if you're breastfeeding, if you find a clogged milk duct or any type of abnormality in your breast, I encourage you to still go to the doctor and exhaust it to the point where you know that it's not breast cancer. Exhaust your options until you know that it's not breast cancer. So, yes. So
that's great advice, because I think so often we're very ready to dismiss something because we have what might be the answer for it, instead of digging deeper. But if you just take the time to just get it cleared up by a healthcare professional, because Dr. Google is not it.
Right.
So going back to the idea of genetic testing and biomarkers, there's obviously been tremendous advancements in the past few years, but what do you think is most relevant for the Black community to know when it comes to genetic testing?
Listen, a genetic test can save your life. It can also save the lives of your loved ones because and if we have to get beyond the history, like we all know the history of medical testing in Black people. Yes, that did occur. However, when we think about our health and the conversations around our health, and considering that our community does not like to talk about health issues, whether it's mental or physical health, a genetic test can help you with those conversations. It can also inform you of everything that they can possibly test for that you're potentially predisposed to, things that you could potentially get beyond cancer, but also like heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes. It can help you and arm you with information to have conversations with your doctor from a preventative healthcare perspective. They can test you. They can put you on a particular regimen as it relates to medical medicine or any type of treatments that can help be preventative, depending on what it is. But one thing that it can also do is help us break a generational curse. I shouldn't say a curse, but how we do not talk about it. You can use that same information to now inform your children and your brothers and sisters and your mother and your aunts and uncles, whomever. You can have an informed conversation about the things you're predisposed to, and also encourage them to get a test as well. So if you think about it, you now have the information to save not only your lives or understand your medical history, but also your children's lives and their children's lives. And it goes so forth and so on. This whole concept about creating generational wealth and health as well. But guess what? Create some generational health too. We can now be informed with things we're predisposed to, so we know how to course correct. One of the statements that I love to hear people say is, if you know better, you'll do better, right? You'll know better, you'll do better, you'll eat better, you'll exercise more, you'll take care of your body more, just because you have information about your potential health problems that could come later in your life, or could be happening right now. So my encouragement is to forget about the past, because we also want to make sure that we're building the data for comparing our genes to other Black people's genes, right? Right now in breast cancer, our genes are being compared to this group of Ashkenazi Jewish women, and that's because there's not a lot of Black data out there. So we also need to build the database so we can see things that are inherent in Black people. You know, this is something that we need to create. We need to build that database. We need to figure out how we can compare. So this is something we can say, Black women only have this, or Black men only have this, or tend to have this more so than any other race. And we can try to figure out ways that we can combat that from a genetic perspective too. Who knows?
It's cliched, but knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Yes,
yeah.
It's power.
And you said something interesting, aunts and uncles. And I think it's a good point to bring up that breast cancer doesn't just happen in women, right? It happens in men too.
Absolutely. And in fact, and when I mentioned earlier that I didn't believe I can get breast cancer because my mother and father didn't have breast cancer. My mother and my grandmother didn't have breast cancer, but my brother took a DNA test. I think it was ancestry.com. And he found out that we had a long lost aunt on my father's side. And we connected with her, found out that she was a legitimate aunt and through my father's father. And found the first thing she told me when I met her is that my great-grandmother, my father's mother, died from breast cancer at age 34. And then I remembered, and I told her that my father's mother, my grandmother, died from breast cancer. But because of my ignorance and not understanding the disease, when she died, I thought she died from liver cancer or cirrhosis, but she had liver cancer, and I thought it metastasized to her breast. Once I was diagnosed and I was going through my medical history, they told me that that is not how breast cancer works. So she actually died from breast cancer. So earlier when I mentioned that I did not carry any type of gene mutation for breast cancer based on my genetic test, but then how did I get it? But there's something there because it's coming through my bloodline that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So it could be. So one thing I will say is that when I took the DNA test in 2020 or 2019, it's probably 2019, it has advanced more since then. So they didn't have the panels that they have today. More panels have been the panels that they use to compare your DNA to.
Yes.
There are more panels now that do further testing. And now I'm scheduled to get another genetic test so we can do some further investigation, because we can try to see if there is some type of lineage or some type of DNA linkage between my paternal great grandmother and grandmothers. So who knows?
Yeah, that's so important. And really, the science is developing at such a rapid pace, and so many mutations have been identified in the recent past that I think that's just another testament to why contributing to that data is so important, because, like you said, you create the bigger pool of comparison, and that just creates, better conclusions, right? Like, obviously, if you have more people to decipher from, it's just going to come out better in the end. So yeah, that's so important. So beyond genetic testing, you talked about self-exams and, going to the doctor for exams. They're relatively easy to do, but what would you say to those who avoid them because of discomfort? So mammograms, sonograms.
Well, first of all, I'm not gonna. So it is. You use the term discomfort, right? It's uncomfortable. It's quick. It's not something that's like gonna be sustained discomfort for hours at a time. Yes, they have to squeeze them till they're almost like they're flat as pancakes. And you're gonna hit it crank. But trust me, it's worth it. It's worth saving your life, right? That little 30 seconds, because they literally tell you, they squeeze it and they run back out, take the image, and they tell you to hold your breath, and you hold your breath, and then it's done. And they come and they uncrank you, or they crank you some more because they need to get some more images. But it's fine. It's quick. I can't say that it's necessarily not painless, but it's not so painful that you won't survive. But trust me, it will save your life. You can, and it can diagnose you as early as possible. So I would say, don't be afraid. Yes, it is a little uncomfortable, but it's quick, and it'll be over before you know it. And you'll know what your breast care, your breast health status is. So I would encourage you to do it anyway. Do it scared and do it anyway. Do it scared and do it anyway. I just heard that a moment ago, so I'm repeating it here. Do it scared and do it anyway, because it will save your life. It will make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's such a small moment in time considering what it can possibly prevent. And I think what you said earlier about you had been taking you've been getting mammograms, preventive mammograms for years before a diagnosis was found. And that's why that's so important, right? So that there's that baseline that this is what your normal is. So if even there's the slightest change, that piece of equipment can pick it up and flag it and lead to further analysis and deciphering what's best for you.
Exactly. And so I don't know if I mentioned this, but to catch a stage 0 diagnosis is very rare. It's usually found by mistake. And I was going through my normal routine. Funny enough, I was not even going to go that day. Someone encouraged me to like, just go and get it done. I'm like, I don't feel like getting my boobs smashed like pancakes. But I did it anyway. And look at where I am now. I'm 3 years past that day. 4 years past it. I was diagnosed twice. 4 years past that day that I was diagnosed. So
amazing. So for those who believe that they don't have access to breast cancer screenings, what would you say to them?
I would say, well, first of all, so you have to qualify for a mammogram, which you have to be 40 years of older. Unfortunately, that's what it is. Yeah, so there are so many organizations out here that provide free mammograms. It's also contingent upon your state and your county, but there are so many ways that you can get a mammogram. But it starts with you, first of all, knowing your breast health. That's you doing the work as well, doing your monthly breast self-exams. So you find a lump, you find something, say something. And as I learned yesterday, you can ask for an MRI of your breast. If you're under 40, if you found a lump, and your doctor is not, or your doctor and insurance company is not approving you for a mammogram, you can ask for an MRI of your breast, especially if you're under 40. But what I would say is that checking with your state and local communities. There's some community-based organizations such as Afro Pink. We work with a couple, Project Renewal, who has a scan van that goes around the state of New York and gives out free mammograms. And we've connected with all the major hospitals as well, find ways to get you free mammograms, but the key is that you have to qualify for them. You have to be 40 or older, or have a history of breast cancer in your family. So again, knowing your genetic test, your genetic makeup will help you with that, doing a genetic test, so you're informed to say, hey, I carried a BRCA1 or 2 gene mutation and other gene mutations based upon this genetic test that I had, right? So I would say, and especially in the state of New York, they're free. Check in with your community-based organizations, but most importantly, go to the doctor, do your monthly breast self-exam, so you'll know what what your breasts feel like. You'll know if you had 1 month and it was clear and the next month you had a lump. You'll notice that if your nipple is engorged, or you're having some type of discharge from, that's an abnormal breast, right? So you want to make sure that you are going to the doctor. So it really starts with you and advocating for yourself and making sure that you are on top of your health. When you go for your annual exams, make sure that your doctor is doing a breast exam on you as well. Make sure that you are informed as much as possible, but making sure that you are checking in with your state and local your states and your local counties to see if they also offer free mammograms. And when I first started this, before I started working with Afro Pink, before Afro Pink was a thing, I started to Google, and this is one time Google was very helpful. Google can be very helpful, but I Googled free mammograms, and I found, or mammogram trucks. I was thinking about, how am I going to have an event? How are we going to give free mammograms? So I basically looked it up and found ScanVan. It was just a Google search, and I called them. And so organizations like Planned Parenthood, just check in. But most importantly, start with your primary care physician, and making sure that you understand how you can get a free mammogram in your state.
And if your doctor doesn't do it at your annual, you can ask. They should do it, no problem.
Exactly. You can ask, can you do it? And also, you can also ask them to show you how to do one properly.
Right. What am I looking for?
Yeah. I have implants, and they still do my breast exams when I go in for my annual exams. Both my PCP and my OBGYN. They check my breast every single time I go in there. So make sure that is part of your routine. And also, men, you get breast cancer too, right? So make sure you're checking your pecs. We had a campaign that said check your pecs one time, but also you should do a monthly breast self-exam. And you should also, because it's called chest wall cancer, I believe. So you should also do monthly breast self-exams. They do have mammograms. Someone asked me that they have mammograms for men. I'm like, I don't think so. They do, they exist. So you too can get, I don't know if it's like an age limit, if it's like a 40-year-old thing, but I know that they do exist. So if you find a lump on your pecs or somewhere on your chest, please do also go and get that examined as well. So
absolutely. Which leads us to a question from the group that is watching, and that is, where does one get genetic testing?
It starts with you. So because I was already impacted by breast cancer, my primary care physician and my oncologist also referred me to a genetic counselor. So you can ask your primary care physician to also, I think you can ask the person that does your breast self-exam, your OBGYN, you can ask them to write, because the thing is, there are a couple of ways you can get Genetic test. First of all, if you want to get a blood test, that one has to be prescribed and or ordered by your doctor. That's not one you can go and say, I just want to, can I just get a genetic test? That's not what it is. They're expensive and they have to be covered by insurance, or you have to pay out of pocket, but it has to be ordered. However, there are so many other organs. So 23andMe has a kit. I distribute them at my events. They have, in addition to Ancestry, they also have health DNA as well. It's not a diagnostic test, but it gives you the information of what you're predisposed to. There's also another organization that I just met recently. They're not licensed in New York yet, but when they are, they're going to give us kits. They're going to give me kits for New Jersey and other states that they're licensed for, but they can determine if you have breast cancer mutations, gene mutations through your tears. So I literally on Instagram, because of Afro Pink, I get all of these ads about breast cancer. So it's technology, medicine, everything is advancing every single day. But those are the ways that you can get genetic tests. Start with your doctor. It has to be ordered if you want to get a blood test. Those aren't necessarily diagnostic either, but again, it lets them know if you have the gene mutations for breast cancer or any type of cancer. But if you want to pay, you can come to Afro Pink and we can give you a kit once we do 23andMe, and or you can purchase them online through 23andMe as well. So there are so many others, and it's becoming more and more advanced. I literally just found out, I met the chief scientific officer at the American Cancer Society's National Breast Cancer Roundtable, which Afro Pink is a part of. She was there and having a conversation. I found out about the kit, the one that they do with tears. It's a company called Aria, and I reached out to them. They replied immediately. They were so excited that somebody was interested in learning more about their kit that they connected me with their chief scientific officer at the event. And she said, I developed it 12 years ago, and it's now finally out in the market, and we're very excited about it. So stay tuned. They may be coming to New York very soon as well. So
that's amazing. And so it's so interesting, the different ways, like obviously a blood test is the basic way, and that's probably what your doctor would order, but the 23andMe, I believe it's spit you put in a cup and
yeah.
And then tears as well. I mean, it really is amazing. But it's also interesting, and this would be for another conversation, but how long it takes to go from our, research and development to actually being in the market. 12 years is not a short amount of time. But that's fascinating and good to know. So thank you for answering that question for our audience. So as far as you and the events that you have coming up, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it is also next week. I'm sure most people can't believe that. I'm having a hard time with it myself. But you have 2 events coming up next month, and I would love for you to share the information with our audience. So I know the first is on the 14th, I believe, in Harlem.
It's on the 14th in Harlem. It's our annual breast cancer awareness block party. The theme is Mammals and Genetics Matter. And this year it's called a Pink Party on the Plaza because it's going to be at the Adam Clayton Powell State Building's Plaza. We're going to turn that thing pink. We're going to bring awareness. We're going to have so many other community-based organizations there that are out there on the ground, on the hands and feet on the ground, out there fighting to make sure that we are screened. We have resources. We're going to also have other giveaways. We're going to have dancing. We're going to have a DJ. We're going to have fun. But you're also going to learn a lot about breast cancer and genetics, genetic testing. We'll have organizations like the Department of Health, the CDC, New York Presby, NYU, several organizations that have already signed up. Plus, we're going to have you're going to come prepared to move, because we're going to have some movement exercises on the stage. So it's going to be a lot of fun, lots of giveaways. I don't know if you saw our sponsors. So we're going to have some really fun and nice giveaways. So we're really excited about that. So come join us. The time is 11 to 4, and it's Saturday, October 14th. And the next event is it's a breast cancer walk. We started that one last year. Let me just mention the block party. This is our 3rd block party. So we're super excited about it. The walk is our second one. We did our first walk across the Brooklyn Bridge last year. It was so fun. It was a small group of us. It was early in the morning, but we had a blast. This year, we're going to walk through Brooklyn, starting at the Barclays Center on October 29th at 9:30 a.m. with this organization called Soca Run Festival. They are amazing. We partnered together last year, and because breast cancer is near and dear to his heart, the CEO, Troy, the CEO, is super excited to have us, and we're looking forward to doing it again, rain or shine. We're going to have a great event. Plus, we're going to also have giveaways, have food and fun, and a DJ as well. So please join us on that day as well.
I love parties with DJs and dancing. Those are my favorite.
I love to dance.
Okay, so going back to your journey, what would you say is the most surprising thing you learned about yourself through your breast cancer journey?
Resilience. I was so amazed, and I used to tell people all the time, like, I didn't realize how amazing the human body is. So I had about 9 surgeries, right? So it seemed like I was just in surgery for about a year and a half, like every 12 weeks, surgery, recover, surgery, recover. But what I would notice is that your body heals so quick. Like, I thought I would be like, when you think about this, the fear about cancer or surgery or whatever, you think that it's going to be something that's long lasting. But when you're going through it, you're not thinking about it. It's when you look back and be like, wow, I had 9 surgeries. Every 12 weeks, something was being cut open and sewn back up, And so I would say that the human body is amazing. So take care of it. If you know better, do better. I love that statement. If you knew better, you'll do better. So take care of your bodies. Take care of your bodies, because the healthier you are, your mindset as well, take care of your mental wellness as well, because that takes a part of it. That helps too. And resilience. And that's the word that sticks. I'm resilient, and it's not just through my cancer journey, but in other parts of my life. But it really showed up there, because I started running again, and I started doing acupuncture and other things, Reiki treatments, meditation. All of it helped, and I got through it. And I'm on the other side. And before I knew it, I was already 1 year cancer free. So it goes by quick. Can't explain it.
That's awesome. And to your point, how quickly the body can heal itself. Obviously, that diminishes over time as you get older. Yeah. But it's just another, again, reason to do the preventive work, so that you're as young as possible, if you do unfortunately have a diagnosis, and as strong as possible to be able to fight it. So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to the day of your first diagnosis and talk to that Vina that day, what would you say to her?
Take someone with you. Take someone with you. I remember I had a benign biopsy. So I went in, even though there was some time between me having a lump removed and me getting my actual diagnosis. That's a different story for a different day, but that's when you have to advocate for yourself. But take someone with you, because I was getting ready to go to Spain and party for one of my friends' 45th birthday. My suitcases were packed, and I just happened to call. I noticed that it was like 8 weeks since because you don't hear any news, you think it's good, but with technology today, we have this app called MyChart, and as soon as your results are available, you can get them. And I just happened to notice that, wait a minute, I had that surgery in April. It's June. Let me just call them, advocate for myself to see what's going on. And when I called them, they said 2 things. You need to speak to an oncologist, which I didn't know what the hell. I've heard of an oncologist, but why would I need an oncologist? I had a benign biopsy. And then you need to talk to the breast surgeon. They're like, first you need to talk to the breast surgeon, you need to talk to the oncologist. And right before my appointment, they call me back and say, nope, you talk to the oncologist first and then the breast surgeon. Didn't know what that meant. Again, just thought maybe I just needed to have a conversation, because they did tell me I need to talk to a cancer specialist. And again, Google taught me what an oncologist is. It's like, okay, I go in. So I went in. And again, I work for the hospital and I was in technology, and everybody wants to always hear what the exciting projects are or what issues are happening in technology. We were having a conversation, bubbly, giggling, having fun. And then she just went right into my treatment plan. And I'm like, excuse me, what are you talking about? Treatment plan. She was like, oh, you have breast cancer. What? I have what? How? Like, how do I have breast cancer? And when I tell you, like, I heard nothing. Want. After that, I heard nothing. But I was openly screaming, crying because I thought my life was over. And the biggest lesson I learned is to bring someone with you, ask questions. When they call you and tell you need to see a something other than what you thought it was, and also follow up. And you had surgery, Vina, you had surgery and you waited 8 weeks to call them because you thought no news was good news. Listen, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Follow up, take somebody with you and just be prepared for whatever. Because I scheduled it before I went to work and I was literally walking down the street, openly wailing. My colleagues and peers is right there. You know, I work right down the street from the cancer center. Not used to seeing me. I'm, Miss Professional, not emotions on, we make it to the workplace, and they see me totally unhinged, walking down the street. Well, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I ran into this guy that I knew, and he's like, "What in the world is happening?" I'm like, "I'm gonna die out of breath." He was like, "Girl, shut up, calm down, go home." But it was one of those things where you like ask questions like, wait, why do I need to see an oncologist? Well, can you tell me what the results are? Because they're not in my chart. And so all of these things. So ask questions along the way, bring somebody with you and follow up. Because again, 8 weeks, I'm living my best life. I'm on my way to Spain for the first time. So I had to go to Spain with this doom, but I had a blast because I'm like, you know what, if I'm going down, I'm gonna have the best time ever in Spain. And I had a ball. I'm drinking all the cava. I'm eating all the paella. Ask my paella. Paella. I don't know how to pronounce it right, but you get it. The rice dish. My friend, I had it every single day, and I had cava. I was drunk and dancing and eating all the paella you can think of. I had a ball.
Good. So we have a question from the audience, and that is, what has been the point of conversation that people take to heart when talking to them about advocating their health for themselves? Like, what's really resonated?
Basically, okay, so one thing I think I did mention that I worked for the hospital, and working for a hospital, you know how it works, right? You know the inner workings. So you know that you have to think about that this is a job for people as well. So they have bosses, and their bosses have bosses, and the hospitals really do care about their reputations, right? So you want to make sure that as a patient that you are paying someone for a service, you're paying someone to do their job for you, right? Escalate. I want to speak to the nurse manager. I want to speak to the director or whatever, or get on the feedback or call somebody. That's what I would tell folks. Listen, remember, this is a job and it's a business too. There's a business in everything. And I worked on a business side, an administrative side of the hospital. Talk, complain, but most importantly, go somewhere else. If they're not taking you, because they don't take Black women's or Black people's aches and pains seriously. You're going to take it seriously, but make sure you have the right people on your team. I had a brown doctor that took me seriously at 35 or 36 or whatever age it was when I was freaking out. She calmed me down. First of all, Vina, calm down. Let me just take a look. Let me just get you a mammogram. She was calm, but she was also brown too. So that's important too. Sometimes you need to get the doctors that look like you because they're going to be there for you more so than other ones, but make sure you're taking you seriously. And if they're not, get them off your care team. The people that take care of you, your primary care physician, your OBGYN, your weight management doctor, whatever the kind of doctor it is, that's your care team. Make sure that your care team is taking care of you and giving you the service that you're paying them for. It is a business at the end of the day. You want them to be human, you want them to be caring, but at the end of the day, it's a business. They have bosses that they need to answer to, and they care about feedback. You're going to always hear, can you tell us how we did? Tell them the truth. I felt like my concerns were not being taken seriously. I did it recently. I broke my ankle in February, and trust me, I went to the same hospital that I worked for, and they treated me like crap. I called let me tell you what your people did, and they were like, I'm so sorry. Can you come back? I'm not coming back. I'm going somewhere else. I'm going somewhere else with somebody's going to take me seriously. The doctor that I saw for that was Black. And he was like, yes, your ankle's broken. They tried to tell me my ankle wasn't broken. Yes, your ankle's broken. This is what you need to do. I'm going to wrap it and treat you like a fracture, and I'm going to send you home with crutches. They sent me out with a broken ankle with no crutches. Saying all that to say is that your voice matters. But let me tell you, that hospital kept calling me back. Hey, are you going to come in? Hey, we want to have you see a concussion specialist. No, you had your chance.
Right.
I'm moving on to somebody that's going to take me seriously. So that's what I would say. Remember, it's a business. Complain. They take that feedback seriously. Escalate. Talk to, I want to speak to your manager. I want to speak to the director of oncology, because they have managers and directors and associate vice presidents and all of that. It rolls up like a business. It's a hierarchy. Go up the hierarchy or go somewhere else.
Yes. And it's so important to note that, because I do think that, at least in my experience, with some doctors who don't have the best bedside manner, you feel kind of like they're doing you a favor, and, and this is just how it is. And it's like, but who knows my body better than me? Nobody.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
please listen. And if you're not going to listen, okay, I'll go to the next one.
Exactly.
So that's great. Yeah. Especially in this world of Google reviews and Yelp reviews and all of the relations there.
That matters.
It's a real good point to make. Yeah.
They want to have a great patient experience score. You are the patient. Advocate for yourself, speak up, and tell the truth. They care about that.
Yes.
And they're going to do what they can to fix it, to make sure that you have a better experience before, during, and after your visit. Trust me. And if not, go somewhere else. And also speak to your community-based organizations. They can give you the words to say when you're escalating up. They can also tell you how to navigate situations like that. They can also tell you about other doctors that they know that will give you the care that you need. So speak to your CBOs, your community-based organizations.
That's great advice. And we have another question. So how did you feel most supported while you were undergoing treatment? Were there groups you leaned on or other things that loved ones did that made you feel supported?
That's a great question. First of all, when I had my double mastectomy, when I had my first diagnosis, I didn't only share it with like a handful of people, but my mother flew up here immediately. My family was around me. And the second time around, it was during the lockdown. So March 6, 2020, I think that was the day that New York was considered in a state of emergency due to COVID. So this was pre-lockdown, like a week before lockdown, and then also pre-vaccine. So everything was virtual, but my mom was there with me. She helped me. But I will say this, I said that my cancer journey was very lonely. And what I meant by that, I had my friends were supportive. My mom was there with me. We were locked down together, and thank God for that. I had my mom with me, my mama with me. But the lonely part is that I didn't know anybody else to say, because your friends love you, they're all gonna cry, and like, don't cry because you're gonna make me cry. I need to be focused to get through this. I need my mind right. I've already cried. My mind is focused on surviving, right? So if you're gonna cry, cry before you get here, or cry when you leave. But we're gonna have fun while you're around me, so I can keep my mind, my energy right. But no one can tell me it's normal for your skin to be burned off. Like when I tell you that radiation, I would look like how you see barbecue meat? That's what my boob looked like. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have anybody be like, well, can you, the nurses, of course, they gave you creams, but none of them have been through breast cancer either. So it would have been nice to have somebody tell me, hey, you may want to try this. So I put this in the refrigerator. It was a cream. And I was like, what if it's cold? I'll put it in the refrigerator. And that made a world of difference. And I tell you, I had a refrigerator in my office so I can put it in the refrigerator and slather that stuff all over me. It was those little tips like that. And that's what I enjoy giving to other women through Afro Pink, just to say, hey, this is normal. This is not normal. You need to go get that checked out. But for the most part, it was my mother and my friends. But that gave you the love and support that they always do, but it's that extra. It was lonely for me, one, because we were in the lockdown, everything was virtual, but also because I wasn't really talking to anybody that had breast cancer too, or had it before, to give me like the inside tips. or other things that you can do. I didn't know you can just get some Vaseline and put it on there, right? I was buying, whatever you're describing. You can get some, what's the Aquaphor ointment?
Aquaphor, yeah.
Because I'm thinking my skin is peeled off, like they have to give me something for I didn't know. So yeah. Or that my implants will flip when they get in. That's a different story. But it was my friends and my family, my squad. But Afro Pink created a support group for that reason. We had a wonderful conversation on Monday. We meet every fourth Monday, and we just talk about things that happen to us, and now it's organic. It grows, and it depends on what's happening in the group. Our next conversation is about the truth about implants, or the truth about your breast reconstruction surgery, things that you may want some tips on how to navigate it. So,
yes, because that's far more complex than one might think on the surface.
And it's Black women. It's Black. It's by us.
Yes, that's so wonderful. So what do you think is the most important thing that Black people should know about taking care of their health, if we haven't covered it already?
Listen, work, be healthy, move. You never know how walking, just stay active. Try to eat as healthy as possible. Unfortunately, I grew up in a state where I didn't necessarily have the healthiest foods around me. If I were to if I had children, I'm beyond that part. But if I had children, I would teach them to eat differently. I would teach them differently about nutrition. But nutrition matters, what you put in your body, because a lot of these foods that we eat have things in them that we don't give ourselves permission to eat. Like there's a lot of foods that have hormones in them, and that could have led to my breast cancer. I'm always thinking, well, how did I get this? Maybe I had all this estrogen and this hormone meat that I was eating, chicken and beef and pork, all of whatever I was eating, fish, whatever the case may be, but be conscious of the things that you're putting in your body. And move, did I say move? And to take care of your mental wellness as well. If you have, if you're not feeling well and you need to talk to someone. Stress kills too. Stress adds to it. I would say try to manage your stress, and move, eat healthy, manage your stress, drink in moderation. I'm not saying not have fun, because we're human. Do what you love, but do it in moderation. And again, I'm human. I still have moments when I do a little bit too much of something, but I course correct and get myself back. Girl, come back here. And you're not supposed to be doing that, right? Slow down, and check in with yourself. Hold yourself accountable for your overall health. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I do.
Yeah, I think that holding yourself accountable, that's a wonderful phrase to take away, because really it's you, and you're the only one who can take full responsibility. So important. Okay, we're wrapping up soon, unless there are any more questions, but my last question for you is, what is your favorite positive affirmation?
And this too shall pass. And this too shall pass. I told you earlier, like I didn't know. I've been through a lot in my life. And what I noticed is that it's all temporary. I was blessed in that I caught my cancer early enough that it didn't become terminal or metastatic. I always mess that word up.
Metastatic.
Thank you. You already know. I'm like that. But in this too shall pass. I want to get it tattooed on me somewhere, so whenever I'm having a moment, I can be like, "And this too shall pass." It says, and you already know that, and this too shall pass, because you've been through so much, and God has got me through. I got myself through with God's help, but and this too shall pass. That's my favorite one. And also gratitude. Be grateful for every moment that you have. And everything that happens, even during the bad times, be grateful for it, because you're probably going to learn something from it as well. Be grateful and
or build that muscle a little more, right? Like the old saying goes, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Absolutely, I can attest.
Smarter.
And smarter, absolutely. So if you know better, you'll do better.
You'll do better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that is a wonderful way to close. I thank you again so much for coming and speaking so frankly and talking about your journey. It has been a wonderful couple of months just getting to know you and work on this with you. I hope everyone who joined us today learned something and is, or if you learned something and or intrigued by something, perhaps you'll go and Google it and learn a little bit more. If you're in the New York City area, please check out afropink.org and the work that they're doing. Obviously, the 2 events next month, I believe, are open to anyone. Yes, Vina?
Anyone, they're free 99. Come through.
Free 99. I love it. And you can find them on Instagram.
Afro Pink INC.
Excellent.
Is the Instagram handle.
Well, thank you so much, Vina.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. We got to stay in touch. So I'm going to miss you. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.